I was lying on a sheet of black ice outside Ferrante's Diner in Louisville, Kentucky, my wrist bent at an angle it was never built for, watching three people walk right past me because they assumed my son was filming another one of his pranks. He was. Except this time I was really hurt, and nobody stopped to check because he'd trained the whole neighborhood not to believe what they were looking at. But let me take you back to where this started. Before starting the story, tell me who are you and where, and you watching from? 32 years on the same 6 blocks and one patch of ice. My name is Curtis Boone. I'm 68 years old, and I spent 32 years as a mail carrier here in Louisville, walking the same 6 blocks in Butchertown, rain or shine, snow or scorching heat. My wife, Loretta, passed 2 years ago, and these days it's just me and her old beagle Scout in the house on Story Avenue. Every morning the two of us walk to Ferrante's Diner for coffee with a few of the guys I used to carry mail alongside. My son Colton is 31. He moved back to Louisville 8 months ago to figure some things out, which mostly meant building an online page where he filmed strangers in public for laughs. I told people he was creative. I didn't know creative meant what it turned out to mean. I believed he still respected me. Right up until the morning I found out my own neighborhood had stopped believing me, even when I was really hurt. It was a Tuesday in January, ice thick enough on the sidewalks that the city had already put out warnings. Colton was walking with me and Scout that morning, phone out like always, filming bits for his page. I never thought much of it anymore. My boot caught a patch of black ice in front of the diner, and I went down hard, no warning, no chance to catch myself. My wrist took the worst of it, bent wrong beneath me, and my head clipped the edge of the curb on the way down. For a few seconds the pain was so total I couldn't make a sound. I just lay there on the ice, Scout's leash still looped around my good hand, waiting for the world to stop spinning. Colton didn't kneel down, he didn't even lower the phone. He said, "Yo, hold on, this is insane," and kept filming from 3 different angles while I tried to push myself up with a wrist that wouldn't hold any weight. 2 people walking by slowed down, looked at the phone in his hand, and kept walking. They'd seen his page before. They assumed, like everyone else in the neighborhood had learned to assume, that whatever they were looking at wasn't real. The video went up an hour later, captioned, "Bro really eats it on ice, rip Grandpa's dignity." By that night it had cleared 400,000 views. The comments were worse than the fall. Strangers joked about my age, about Scout just standing there judging me, about somebody needing to buy me a life alert for Christmas. A few people from my old mail route recognized me and left comments too, the kind that used to be neighbors saying things I never expected to read about myself. I iced my wrist that night alone at my kitchen table, phone face down, trying not to read any more of it, and failing. 2 days later, at the diner, my old supervisor from the post office, a man named Herb Castellano, slid his phone across the table instead of a menu. He didn't say much, just, "Curtis, I think you need to see this." It wasn't my video. It was Colton's page, a whole section of it going back 11 months. An elderly woman confused in a parking lot. An old man struggling with a walker outside a pharmacy, a man who looked easily past 80 sitting alone on a bus bench, filmed for over a minute before Colton ever said a word to him. Strangers. All of them strangers, all of them filmed the same way I was, all of them turned into the same kind of joke. In 32 years delivering mail, I learned that showing up mattered more than anything you said about yourself. Rain, ice, 100 degrees in August, you still walk the route, because somewhere on it was a person waiting on something that mattered to them. My son had built an entire career out of walking past people at the exact moment they needed him most and calling it content. I wasn't his first stranger. I was just the one who happened to share his last name. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with Scout at my feet and went through the archive myself, one video at a time, writing dates down in the back of an old delivery log I still kept out of habit. By the time I finished, I'd counted 31 videos of elderly strangers, all posted over 11 months, all sponsored by the same off-brand energy drink that ran an ad in the middle of every clip. Colton wasn't stumbling into these moments, he was hunting for them, camera-ready near pharmacies, bus stops, grocery store parking lots, anywhere an older person might be caught off guard. My fall wasn't an accident he happened to catch. It was the 30-second data point in a pattern he'd been running since before I even knew he kept his phone out half the time we spent together. I thought about all those mornings he walked with me and Scout to the diner, phone already in his hand before we'd even left the porch. I used to think he just liked spending time with his old man. Now I understood he'd been working the whole time, and I was simply the closest target on his route. I didn't want Colton arrested, and honestly by then anger wasn't even the strongest thing I felt. What I wanted was for it to stop, for him and for every stranger on that list I could still find. Herb and 3 other guys from my old route spent a weekend helping me identify as many of the people in those videos as we could, mostly by matching storefronts and street signs to businesses we knew. We found 6 of them. I visited each one myself, introduced myself, and apologized on behalf of a son who never once apologized himself. We reported the whole pattern to the platform together. 31 videos, all flagged for filming vulnerable people without consent. The account came down within a week, sponsor and all. Colton called me twice after that. I let both calls go to voicemail. Some doors, even after 32 years of knocking on them for a living, I've learned you're allowed to just not answer. These days, Scout and I still walk to Ferrante's every morning. The guys at the counter don't joke about the video anymore. Mostly they just ask how my wrist is healing, and I tell them the truth, slower than I'd like, but it's healing. My son filmed me falling and called it content, and it turned out I wasn't the first stranger he'd done that to, and I wasn't going to be the last unless somebody stopped him. If you found out someone you loved had been doing this to people you'll never meet, would you look away, or would you look closer?